Hello and welcome to a Java tutorial, where I attempt to teach you what I've learned over the past couple of years of learning Java. So to get started, you will need to download an IDE of your choice to develop your code, and I'm gonna pick IntelliJ IDE Community Edition because it's free and I think it's better than Eclipse. You're also going to need to download a JDK. I'm gonna download the JDK 19 for Windows 64. Okay, so now that they're downloading, you can close the browser, you can go to where you downloaded them, and you can start off with the JDK. You're gonna click next. This is gonna be the default path, next, and it's done. You also install IntelliJ. Next, this is the path where you want it to be installed. You can create a shortcut. I don't want to. I do want to update the path, and I don't want any associations. Install. It's gonna take a bit. And it's done. We can reboot the computer if we want to, but I want to do it right now. I will manually reboot later. We can throw these in the recycle bin and delete them. I will do it as I don't have much space. And if we search for IntelliJ, it should now be available. I'm gonna pin to taskbar along with my other programs. Okay, so you can make a folder in your desktop. I have these folders. I'm gonna make a new one and call it Java for Java. And here I'm gonna store all my projects. I'm gonna create a new folder and call it tutorial for this tutorial. And I'm going to go inside the folder and show more options. And yeah, I need to restart so it shows up open as IntelliJ project, but that's fine. We can just open IntelliJ. This is my previous project. You can open. It might look a bit different for you, but it's quite a simple process. You open the folder that you made, go to desktop, Java, and your folder that you just made. And you also trust the project. You can also trust all the projects in the folder Java. Now, it should look similar to this, what you've got. And you're going to make a new Java class. And you're going to name it main. Enter. So now you just made your first class. This is gonna contain the main portion of your code. And to get started with Java, you always have to do public static void main parentheses string array args, and then two of these curly brackets. This is the main function. I'm gonna explain what this is later, but this is going to be where you put all your main code in between these two curly braces. So the first thing we're going to learn is how to print to the console. This is also known as the Hello World program, and to do that you need to do a bit of a long line, which is system.out.println ln, that is, and inside double quotation marks you need to type your message that you want to display to the console, which is going to be hello world. Of course, it's mandatory for any first program, and it automatically put a semicolon on the end. That is necessary for Java. Other programming languages might not need it, but Java definitely does. If we click this green play button and click on run main.main parentheses, it's gonna run our program in a bit, and it's gonna say hello world. Nice. But what if we wanted to change the message later on? Well, then we have to change this line of code every time. So it would be like hello John. So there is a way to do it so we don't have to change this line of code every time. That is to use a variable. And the variable basically is a drawer that contains a value. And variables have types, which is the type of the data that we have in them. And this type of data is called a string. It's basically a bunch of characters, and it's also represented in memory as a character array. We're going to learn what arrays are later on, of course. So to make a string variable, we need to use the identifier of the type of the variable, which is string. the name of the variable, which is, well, it could be name. If we wanted to represent the name of the person we want to say hello to, then equals to assign a value, and the actual value itself, it could be James, and the semicolon in the end, and we can do hello James and replace this with the name. Variables don't need quotation marks. If they are put inside quotation marks, it's actually gonna display name. It's not gonna display the value that we assign to it. So we need to pass in the name, and we can run this, and we're going to get hello James. But what if we want the hello in every message? Well, then we have to concatenate the strings, that is to add them together. So we would have hello. To concatenate strings, we can do dot concat name if we wanted, or we could do plus, which is way simpler, name, and we get yeah, we have to remove hello from here, and we would need to add a space here, because if we didn't add a space, it's gonna be all together jammed. We need to add a space, hello James. But what if we wanted to have a number? Well, for numbers you can use the most basic is int, that stands for integer, and let's say age equals 21. 21 just goes in here without quotation marks. If we did put quotation marks, it would be wrong, it would be a syntax error, so it needs to be just by itself. And we can do plus is, we can add a space, is plus age plus years old. And if we run this, hello James is 21 years old. And of course that grammatically doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's just for the demonstration. Now what if the number needed to contain a decimal value? Well, then int wouldn't cut it, and for that we have float and doubles. Now if I type float here, it's going to show an error because it actually counts this as a double, and they are basically a number that is separated by a decimal point. That means it could have either many numbers before the decimal point or many numbers after the decimal point. It's a floating point number. That's what it means, floating. So the reason it's throwing the error is because in Java, to declare floating point values explicitly, we have to use the f at the end. I believe also lowercase f works, but usually uppercase f is the convention, I think. So we can also do, yeah, if we run this, it should be 21.341 years old, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, obviously. And we can also have doubles. Now the difference between floats and doubles is that floats can hold smaller numbers because it has to share numbers for both the point before the decimal point and the number after the decimal point. It's just one big number, and the decimal point is separating those numbers essentially. But the double actually uses two numbers, so the 21 and the 341 are two different numbers, and it's not throwing an error when you have the f here, but it's better to not have it if you have a double. Now another data type is Boolean, and this can take only values true and false. So we can have something like can drink equals true. So we can also add that to this message, plus can drink plus can drink, the variable name. And this is gonna show us can drink true. The Boolean can't take any other values like a string or a number. Another data type is a char or char, whatever. This data type can take only a single character instead of a whole string. It can be A, B, Could be an exclamation mark, a dot, any one number, 0. Can't be many numbers or many characters. That could be a string literal. And it's also defined with single quotes, not double quotes. It's not like some languages which can use them interchangeably. Another data type is a long, and this can take a long number, like if you wanted an ID for a user, let's say. Yeah, for long numbers you need to use an L, and then you can use much bigger numbers than you can use with ints and without the L. It doesn't actually accept it. And there is one last basic data type, and that is the array. The array is basically a container that holds many variables inside of it, and they can only be of one type. For example, if I do a string array of names, this is equal to a new string array, and you need to type in how many elements you need it to have. You can have 3, 5, 6, whatever amount of elements you want to, but it's static, so that means you can't add new elements or take elements out. You can only have null elements. For example, if I tried to print out the first element of this array, which would be names, and we use these square brackets to access a specific variable inside of it. It starts from 0 and it goes 1, 2. 2 is the last variable that it has inside of it because it starts from 0, and you can see the warning, but we're going to ignore that. And if we run this, we get a null pointer exception. No, we get a null value printed out to the console. If we wanted to add stuff in the array, we could do names and the position 0 equals to a string, whatever that would be. Let's say James 2. And if we print out names 0, we get James 2. So basically these square brackets indicate that it's a string array instead of a string literal, the name of the variable, and then the new keyword makes a new instance of a string array with 3 slots for variables inside of it. We can also initialize the array initially by using square brackets and then putting however many elements we want to in this array, separated using commas. And now we get, if we say this could be John, this could be Mary, this could be Peter. And the John is going to be replaced by James 2, and it's going to be printed out. If we want to print out the entire thing, we can do names without the square brackets, but it's gonna print out the array looking a bit weird. Yeah, it doesn't actually print out the array. So if we do toString, so basically when we print out the array, it basically pre-applies the toString to it. So this does nothing, it still is gibberish, just the actual object, which is something we don't know yet. So we can wrap with arrays.toString, which prints out the array, and we're going to see it here, James 2, Mary, Peter, and it prints out the actual array. It's importing from Java util arrays the toString function, which we don't really know what that is yet, of course. But of course, this is all the time we have for today. In the next episode, we're going to learn more about functions and loops, hopefully. So if you liked this video, press the like button, and if you want to watch more of these, press the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.